Welcome everybody to week 2 of our Duffle Sewalong for 2025. I apologize for not giving you advance notice when I was going live, but just as a reminder, this will be saved and you can replay it later. Will also be posted on my YouTube channel, so you can watch it there if you prefer to pause, speed up, all of those things. And it will be linked in the newsletter, which will be going out later this afternoon. I intended to get on earlier today, but I had a sewing friend in town and I couldn't miss the opportunity to grab breakfast with her. So I apologize for it being a little bit later. And because of that, Laurel won't be joining us today, but she has been behind the scenes collecting information for the donations. We're making some progress, and as always for the Duffle Drive for foster care. If you're participating in that part of the Sewalong, I wanted to mention that we're still collecting. We've been learning all these things about foster care, and there's not like every state functions differently with their own foster care program. So we've been having a trickier time finding different organizations to like a website that would take us to a bunch of places we can donate. So we are asking if in your community, if you find out information of a place that accepts duffel bags for donations for foster kids, if you can email me or send me a DM or send Laurel a DM. Remember, Laurel's at Snowberry Street, because we're going to compile that list and share that the last week of the Sewalong. But we are making progress, so we're really excited about that and excited to have everyone sewing along, whether you're donating your duffel or you're just making it and learning. So public school social worker is a great resource. That's great, because that's how Laurel even found out about the need of suitcases and duffels for children in foster care. So thank you for that. That's a great tip. Okay, so we're just going to dive in. I want to share lots of tips, things that I think will be helpful for you as you are working on your week 2 of the Duffle Sewalong. So week 1 was just collecting our supplies. And if you were making a patchwork version of the bag, it was to sew your patchwork. So then week 2 will be cutting and quilting and quilting and cutting, and then making your handles. So if you are doing, we'll keep the handle tuck for the end. Okay, so I'm going to move this duffel out of the way so that I can show you the things that I wanted to share with you today. And I wanted to do some of this on camera, so I know that the angle's not great, but I hope that I can show you and hold it up and show you, because one of the questions that I've gotten so much is about using a directional fabric. So this is the fabric that I've picked for my duffel. I thought it looked kind of boy fabric-y. I just found it in my stash. So it's obviously a directional fabric. I don't want cheetahs upside down on one side and right side up on the other. So I have my 1 yard of fabric for my exterior of the bag, and I'm just going to fold it in half because I'm using my small cutting mat today to cut. But I'm going to cut the measurement that's listed in the pattern, and I'm going to cut it the width of fabric, just like as you were cutting binding strips off or anything else. You know, I'm just going to cut that measurement off. Let's see. And this is going to be a little trickier than I thought because I've got just a small cutting mat. I should have pulled my bigger one out, but I didn't. So, okay. So here we go. I'm going to cut that measurement off the width of my fabric, and I'll show you after I do it. Let's see, this is what I mean by. Okay, so I have this piece, right, with the fabric. This is what's left. And then I have my other piece with the fabric, right? So this is going to be my bag body piece that we're going to quilt up. So I made the first cut, and now I'm going to cut the fold. I'm going to cut the fold right off the top. And if you have questions, you can ask them. I may have to go back at the end because I'm farther enough from my camera that I can't really read them. So I apologize. I'm not trying to ignore anybody's questions. Okay, so now I'm going to just cut the fold off the top of that piece. So now I have 2 pieces. Of course I can't pull them apart. Okay, I have this piece here and this piece here. So now what I'm going to do is put them so that that center seam of the that will be the bottom of the bag. It matches up so like the pattern is facing away from the center seam, right? So I'm going to just try and hold that up so you can kind of see. See, the cheetahs are going this way, and then the cheetahs on this side are going this way. So then what I'm going to do is just put those right sides together, and I'm going to sew a seam. I like to do a 1/2 inch seam here, just so that I can iron it flat, and it's a little bit bigger seam so it stays nice and flat. So then I'll have this piece ready to go and quilt on my Soft and Stable with my lining, right? And then I have this piece as well. So if you're quilting on your domestic sewing machine, I want to just give you a few quilting tips. You can quilt, you can send yardage out to your favorite long arm quilter. I am a long arm quilter, so that's like, I use my long arm to quilt a lot of Soft and Stable for my own bag projects, but I also quilt a lot of bag projects on my domestic sewing machine as well, especially smaller ones. These ones are a little bit bigger, so what I recommend is, even if you aren't doing a directional print, you can cut your fabric down like that, and then you can just quilt up 2 smaller pieces. So you'll just lay this out on your Soft and Stable. So this is just a scrap of Soft and Stable that I had lying around that I wanted to just show you. And my tips for quilting Soft and Stable. I have a video that I'll link in the newsletter that's going out as well, because I just have like simple tips for quilting Soft and Stable, but I'm going to show you how I like to do it. So I haven't even used this iron yet, but this is my newest pattern, the Sunshine Sisters bag. This is the smallest size. There's 3 sizes in there, and it fits these little Aliso irons perfectly. So I'm pulling out my iron because I'm going to show you how to do this. So there's lots of ways. If you need more quilting tips, or if you have a way that you like to do your quilting, just do it how you like, because really what you're doing is making a quilt sandwich, and just like anything else that you're quilting, if you're quilting quilts or quilting a little wall hanging or whatever, it's the same. Soft and Stable is not much different, other than it's just a little bit more firm, right? Okay, so I'm going to get that iron heating up, and I'm going to use iron at a later step. It's not that important to demo how to iron, because I know you guys all know how to do that, but your Soft and Stable, if it has creases in it, you can use steam and iron, and the creases will pop right out. It's pretty amazing. It's like one of my favorite products. So again, Soft and Stable is that 1/4 inch foam interfacing, which I prefer to use in the bag. You can use batting if you prefer as well, or a double layer of batting. So personally, I just like to lay my fabric down on the Soft and Stable and iron it in place with steam. And I know that maybe sounds simple, but that's how I like to quilt my Soft and Stable. And then I like to get flower head pins. So if you've ever used these, I like the flat flower head pins, because if I'm marking lines, then I can just lay my ruler right on top, and they don't get in the way of the ruler, right? They're flat. And I pin, so say this is like okay, I'm going to show you. I knew it would be trickier to demo this on the screen than anything. So I like to pin out. So like I'll iron this all down and I pin out. And obviously there will be a lining as well. The lining will be on the other side. So I'll iron the lining and I'll iron the top, and then I'll pin these so that the pins are going out, and it just kind of like pulls it out, right? So, and then I'll iron it in place. That's how I like to do it. I just use pins and an iron for prepping my panel for quilting. I know that there is other products out there that are fusible. Soft and Stable doesn't come with a fusible, as a fusible product, but I personally don't like the fusible because I don't love the way that the glue makes the fabric texture look sometimes. So I don't ever use I think it's a Bozal, it has a fusible, but if you like that, use it. Like, use what you like. This is just what I like, right? You can use a basting spray. This is June Taylor's Quilt Basting Spray. This is the one I like. So I know that there's another one. It's 405 or 404. I can't remember exactly the number. That spray works great too. This is just the one I had on hand and I've really liked it. So June Taylor's Basting Spray. I don't sell this in my shop, but you can get this probably at your local craft store. If you prefer. So you can just spray that, stick it down. I've done that a few times and it works great as well. I just don't like the mess and I don't like spraying it inside, and I'm probably too lazy to take my project outside. That's probably why I don't use it more than anything, but it works great. So as long as you get this all pinned together and layered together, there's different ways of marking your fabric to quilt it, and I like to use a hair marker. You can use a butter knife. I like hair marker, and I love the modern American handcraft tools because they're just so beautiful, but they also work so great. If you're new to quilting rulers, which most of you probably aren't, but there's some great marking lines on your quilting rulers. There's 45-degree lines. There's 60-degree lines. Opposite of 60, I think, is the 30. So, like, you can do different angles or different designs. You could do grid. You could do crosshatch. You can do rectangles. There's so many simple designs you can do on your sewing machine. If you're doing the patchwork, you can follow the center of the squares and just do X's or a 1/4 inch in from it. Oftentimes there's fabric that has a great pattern, so follow the pattern on your fabric. I'm trying to see if I have any examples of any of those things. I'm not sure I do, but I think you guys have probably seen them if you're quilters. So there's always fun things to do with quilting. You can free motion quilt, practice your free motion quilt. If this panel is too big to manage, you can also cut down your pieces. So the listed sizes in the pattern for your end panels and your end pockets, you will want to cut pieces bigger than that. And I usually just say like an inch, inch and a half bigger than the size listed, because it will shrink up as you quilt it. So that's just the nature of quilting. It kind of shrinks a little. Sometimes the lining and the top shift a little. So if you cut it a little bit bigger than the piece, then you can trim it down after. So that's what I would recommend. If you feel like this is too big for you to manage in your machine, there's always a solution for all of those things. So if you want to mix and match prints and you're just going through your scrap bin and you think this would be a great end panel and this would be a great end pocket, do it. I think that that's so fun. And if you're like, oh, I don't have quite enough lining, just throw a different lining on. I think that that's the fun in these bags, is that you can just kind of do what works for you. And yeah, so I hope that those tips are helpful for quilting and marking. Again, I love the Sewalong water or air erasing marker for marking my quilting lines. But if you do plan to use this, make sure you have the time to quilt it right then, because it will disappear, right? The lines disappear and they don't stay. Okay, and then also the chalk marker is great for marking those lines. There's also a sewing guide on your sewing machine. If you've ever seen that long, it usually looks like a metal L like that. And it goes right on, and you can adjust your spacing on it. So you could maybe do 1/2 inch or 1 inch or 3/4 inch, whatever spacing you want. If you're doing crosshatch or grid, use that. That's great. Then you don't have to mark every single line. You can just mark one line, sew it, and then set up that guide, and you can use that to follow every time. I've seen people that have used masking tape, where you just tape it on and sew on either side of the masking tape. There's so many different ways to do quilting. So I really just wanted to give you a brief overview of options, because there are so many different ways to do it. And I would just do what works for you and what's best, what you find to be the best. And like I said, ironing the fabric and steaming it, and it's not fusible, but I prefer to do it. I feel like it just kind of grips the fabric a little bit, and then I pin it, and then as I'm pinning or quilting, I take the pins out, and then I don't have to worry about the pins. That's how I like to do the quilting. Okay. So we covered the directional fabric. We're doing the quilting. So after you have your fabric quilted, so this is all quilted. So I just have an example of a panel that was machine quilted on my long arm. So you have this big panel quilted. This is only a 1/2 yard, so it wouldn't quite be enough. And you're going to cut your pieces out of this. So I'm not actually going to cut into this one, but I just want to show you what I like to do for cutting. Let's see, I gotta make sure that this hot iron isn't, oh, it's not heating up yet. Let's see. Oh, I have to turn it on. There you go. I want to show you that for doing the handles. Okay, that's heating up. So when you are cutting your soft and stable. Some of the pieces in this bag are big, right? The body of the bag is big, you know? So I think sometimes that feels overwhelming to cut. So I really wanted to, okay, question real quick. What iron is this? This is the Aliso iron, the mini travel iron. It's one of the newer styles. I haven't actually used it yet. This is my first time. But I'm really excited about the changes they made to their new model. So I'll let you know how it goes. Okay, so when you're cutting the big pieces, so I am a big fan of having a lot of sizes of quilting rulers because I don't know why. I just like using them and for different things, right? So I recently got this ruler. This is the Big Easy ruler. It's 12.5 by 24.5. So I really love this when I'm cutting out bag pieces because this is big enough to cut almost all the pieces, right? The body of the bag is so big, but what I like to do and why I like to have extras is because I prefer to measure off of my rulers rather than my mat. And when I was working in a quilt shop when I was a young girl, I have all these ladies that like tried to teach me like, don't cut from your mat, cut from your rulers, and they're more accurate. And I don't know if that's true or not, but that's the habit that I got into, and I prefer it too now. So I like cutting off of my ruler rather than my mat. So cutting these big pieces, I like to just butt the rulers up next to each other until I get the measurement that I need and lay them down and then cut them like that, because you rotary cut all of the pieces. That is going to be the way that you will want to cut everything out. Okay, and then after you cut your pieces out, this is the first thing I like to do. I like to take whatever piece I cut out to my sewing machine and do an 1/8 of an inch stitch around the edge. And the reason I like to do that right away is so that it locks in these quilting stitches. So because we're just rotary cutting straight through all of our quilting lines, I don't want those to come undone, right? So that's why the next step in the pattern right after quilting, after cutting out your quilted fabric, is to do this stitch around. So I'm going to just hold that up close and hopefully you guys can see just that simple top stitch. It just helps to keep that stitching in place. And I think that it's really valuable as you're putting your bag together in later steps that you've done this to all of your pieces, because it compresses this edge and makes this seam not as bulky to when you're binding it, right? So I think it's a very important step, so don't skip it. I say that every time we do any sort of bag class or anything, don't skip this top stitch because it's really valuable in keeping your quilting together and compressing this edge when you're then ending up adding like your pocket and your bag body and your end panel and all those pieces together where you're getting thicker and thicker seams. So, okay, we covered that. So this is actually from a piece from my newest Duffle pattern that I'm going to be releasing at QuiltCon, first day of QuiltCon next month, and I'm going to give you a peek of it at the end of the video. But okay, we're going to talk about handles. So handles is the last thing. So if you have questions on quilting or cutting, be sure to leave them in the comments and I'll go back at the end to answer them. But I'm going to show you just a few tips on handles. So you can do lots of different webbings for your bag, right? There's decorative webbings and there's cotton webbings, lots of different options. There's even the option of using fabric and covering it with the Polypro. So the Polypro is a little bit thinner than these ones, which is nice because, and it's really slick. So it's going to pull straight through your fabric tube. So I have made just a simple fabric tube because I told you I would demo my favorite tube turner. Okay, so I have this. This is cut the size for 1.5 inch. For 1.5 inch webbing to fit through, and I've sewn my seam, and I wanted to show the trick of how I like to sew this, iron this seam open, because I like to iron this seam open. So I don't think, let's see, I think you can see it a little bit at the bottom, but I'll hold it up and show you. Okay, so I lay this down on my sewing, or my ironing table like this, and then I just open up the seam with my finger, and I iron it just along the seam. So this side closest to me has the fold of this tube, I don't want to iron across the fold, right? I don't want to put a hard crease into this. So I'm just going to iron this seam open. Can you see that? I hope you can see that. Like I just ironed it open here, but I did not press this side. And I'm going to just finish pressing this open. Oh, I like this little iron. It's going to be a good one. Okay, so I pressed that seam open, and so now you can kind of see if I like open that, it kind of puts that seam in the center. We'll press it again, and then it will lay really flat, but at this point, okay, I gotta make sure I have my tools. Okay, so we're gonna turn this tube right side out so that we can pull our strapping through. So this is my favorite tube turner. There's Dritz one, and this is a Prim brand. I started carrying these ones. I like the Dritz just as well, so if you have those, use those, but you know, I couldn't resist pink, so I had to carry the pink ones. Anyway, so these are in my shop. They're awesome. If you ever do any sort of turning, these are awesome. Okay, so I'm going to give you my tips about tube turners. So I'm going to stick the plastic, so it comes with two parts, right? It comes with the plastic tube, and then like a chopstick type wooden stick. So I'm going to stick the plastic tube into the bottom of this fabric tube, and I always measure, this is just my like quirk, I measure with my thumb, right? That's about how far I put it in. And then I don't really love to use this super pointy end, I like to use the blunt end, but then I'm going to jam this at the bottom of this, right? So I don't want it to go through the fabric tube because that doesn't help. I want it to be like stuck in there like it's jammed up. And then we're just going to pull this over, and you're going to be doing handles that are way longer than this. So you're just going to scrunch as much fabric onto this as you can. And then I like to hold this and this. So if you can see, I'm holding onto the wooden stick here and the plastic tube. You don't want to let go of either of those. And then I'm just going to scrunch this down, right? So it just flips right inside out. So that was a short piece, so just for the example, but it is so slick to turn tubes inside out. So now I have my tube, and I want to press this so that the seam is in the center of it. So I'm going to go ahead and do that right now. And because I pressed that one side open, this is laying really nice and flat with, I can feel the seam is flat under there, which is just nice. It just makes it look nicer for when we pull our webbing through. So I just wanted to share that tip. I don't know that I've ever shared that one in the Duffle Sewalong. I have shared flipping, right? And then it just is so nice. It's kind of hard to see with this striped fabric, but it was just a scrap from my scrap bin. And then you'll just grab your webbing, and you can just hook a large safety pin onto it and pull it through, and that will work really great. It will work so great to do that. So I'm not going to do that, but you'll just pull that through, and then you'll do an 1/8 inch top stitch on each side, and that's all in the pattern. So if you're covering your handles, that is an awesome way to go. I'm trying to see if I have a bag here. This is my Janet May purse, and I love this pattern. But I covered these handles with Ruby Star speckled fabric, so there's an 1/8 inch top stitch right on the edge. I always like to match the fabric or the thread so it looks like it just blends right in. Anyways, so I love covering my handles with webbing as much as I like using a decorative webbing as well. Sometimes you just can't find the right color of webbing, so using fabric is a great option. Okay, and then I wanted to show another tip on handles. So this is one thing. I have done it different ways over the last little while. I've gone different ways in how I like to finish these ends, right? Because it gets thick. A lot of times I'll like just fold in an extra 1/4 inch or 1/2 inch, and then I'll sew it down, you know, but sometimes that gets big and bulky. So I have learned that you'll have to just check, depending on the webbing you use, you can use a lighter and you can burn the edge and kind of melt it. So I'm just going to clean up this edge real quick and then just show you real quick how I like to do that. So I just use a lighter right on the edge. Thanks to a quilting retreat friend who gave us lighters at retreat. And then it finishes the edge. So then it doesn't fray, and it's just like a really nice finished edge. And then if you're like sewing your hardware on, it's just nice and finished, and it's not going to come undone. And then you don't have to have that extra bulk of folding your webbing. So there's my little tip on decorative webbings. You can just grab a little lighter and use that. Okay, I think that's it. I was trying to get through this quick because I know your time is always valuable. You want to get sewing. So if you have questions, I'm going to sneak around my table and I'm going to look at the comments real quick. But like I said, the newsletter is going to be going out this afternoon. This video will be in it, so you can rewatch the replay then. And Laurel has been busy behind the scenes finding our contacts if you're planning on donating your duffel bag. So I'm just going to sneak across here real quick. Oh, there's a peek of I'm going to grab my phone real fast. Okay, where do you purchase the webbing? I have lots of webbing in my shop. Lots of shops carry webbing. We are sold out of a ton of colors because you guys have been ordering so much, but we have a big restock coming. And we do have the Poly Pro in stock. Gosh, I don't know where I put it, but the one that you use to cover your handles. Okay, I would never have guessed to cover the webbing. Yes, it's so awesome. So, like I said, the Poly Pro is the easiest to do because it's slick and it slides right through the fabric. The Clover plastic bodkin with the clamp is perfect for feeding the webbing. Oh, yeah, a bodkin would be perfect for that as well. Tube turners, game changers, absolutely. You make everything look so easy. Oh, well, I've made a lot of bags. I haven't shared this yet because I thought it would be fun to share in post, but I did 93 bags last year. Yeah, that is crazy. I don't even know how I had time to do anything else. Okay, where do we buy cute webbing? In the shop. There's lots of great shops that carry lots of great webbing. Okay, I think did I miss anything? 505 is the basting spray. Yes, I said the wrong number. So 505 is a great basting spray for quilting. If you already have that, use it. It's great. Okay. I don't think I've missed anything else. I hope I haven't. I hope I haven't missed anything else. Okay. I told you I'd give you a sneak peek at my newest duffel bag pattern, so I'm going to. And, it is just right here, my little pal. I shared a peek of it on Instagram stories, earlier this week, but let me see if I can flip my camera. There we go. So this is the end. It has a slip pocket. It has these nice little zipper pockets on the side. And then the duffel opening with some little mesh pockets inside. And then the same on this end as well. This was my first prototype I've made. I'm almost done with my second. And I have been loving making it. It's been so fun. And this one, I just used a bunch of scraps. Scrap Soft and Stable that I had lying around. So it was really fun to kind of mix and match all these prints together. Anyways, so there you have it. There's week 2 of our Duffle Sewalong, and I'm so grateful for all of you sewing along. We have almost 1,500 of you, if you can believe it. So, as always, ask your questions in emails and DMs. We are doing our best to get everybody answered. I promise I'm doing my very best. It's been a busy week. So, anyways, I hope you guys have a really great weekend. Good luck with your bag quilting, and, yeah, keep sewing. I'll talk to you guys next week.